Good morning. Welcome to Charleston Race Week, day one. We're here with Shay Gibson from SailFlow Weather and Leandro Spina from the Olympic Development Program. We'll turn it over to Shay for this morning's forecast.
Great, thank you, Libby. Always a pleasure to do these every year. And it is Friday, April the 29th. We're going to be talking about the weather forecast for today. Let me go ahead and get into some of the housekeeping. I'm going to switch over to manual mode here. Housekeeping rules, if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask. We'll field those at the end of our segment. And we're happy to take questions, so please do ask. Going into the speakers today, myself, Leandro Spina, and Tommy Harkin may be joining us this morning. We're going to wait to see if he hops on with us. He did talk a bit about currents in the harbor yesterday, and I've got some slides to show for that as well. Real quick, SailFlow, we do have pro access for all of our stations and all of our basically all the features that we have in our app for the entire weekend until Monday morning 9 a.m. So feel free to use that, and we appreciate you using SailFlow. Speaking of tidal currents, we did speak to this yesterday. There's going to be an Apigean new moon, so we're in a waning crescent moon phase right now. So the tidal swings aren't going to be very large. We're seeing right now that tidal swing goes up to about maybe 6.7 feet, so maybe a little higher than normal, which means that the ebb is going to be a little bit stronger. We do have the information for tide information. So it looks like about 12:28 p.m. today, it's going to be the max ebb at about minus 2.23 knots. That may be accentuated a little bit, especially on the West Ashley, the riverside, around maybe 2.4 to 2.5 at the most. But I think that's going to be capped right around that number. So 304 as we get into slack tide, that's going to be wrapping up the race. Tommy did speak that yesterday. This is going to be largely an ebb tide race, so it's going to be favorable for a lot of folks out there on the water. Let's go ahead and talk about the weather. And looking at visible satellite right now, this is the College of DuPage. A little bit of cloud cover to our north. We do have a little bit of a cold front. Let me get my little draw tool out here. A little bit of a cold front that's sort of draped. It's fizzling out as it gets towards the coast, but sits right over, I'd say, Cape Lookout, maybe even between Cape Lookout and Cape Fear. And this basically has high pressure off the coast, and high pressure steers in a clockwise direction. So as it comes around, it's becoming a little bit more southeast as it runs into the coastline. There is a ridge axis around this high. Let me start back over again. Ridge axis means it's an extension of the center, which means weaker winds. And this goes along that front to inland all the way into Georgia right now. So typically below that ridge axis is where we see the southeast winds. They're usually light, maybe modest. If we get closer to the line, it's lighter. If we get away from the line, it's a little more modest, especially Georgia, seeing a stronger east-southeast flow than us. But that's going to be the general flow for today as far as the sea breezes go. What also that means is that the sea breeze is going to be a little shallower, which means it's going to be thinner. The sea breeze circulation as it goes into the coast. We do have upper level winds that are steering in from the west. So the circulation comes back out over the water, circulates back into the coastline as return flow occurs. And then that sea breeze is really, it's just more elongated and shallow in depth. So it's not going to be that strong today. I'm only anticipating about 6 to 10 knots. If we take a look at SailFlow, what's going on now is a southeast, maybe south-southeast inside the harbor over towards Chutes Folly. And we're seeing about 5 to 9 knots, and that's going to be the norm pretty much through the morning. Now, I think as we get into the afternoon, we may see these numbers come up just a little bit, but I'll tell you one thing, inside the harbor, we're going to probably see a couple of extra knots. And the reason why is, and I'll go into the slide deck here in just a minute to show you, but the reason why is because of thermal coupling that occurs inside the harbor. But if we look at some of the model agreement, we do see a large amount of agreement in the modeling right around midday for winds to be locked in from the southeast, approaching 10 knots, which that's a good thing inside the harbor. We want it to be 10 to 14. That's going to be an ideal type of environment for really good racing today. We'd always want maybe a little bit more than that, but if we're squeezing 10 to 14 knots out of the forecast inside the harbor, that's good. And with any gift wind, we may get 12 to 16, especially right down the shipping channels. So we go back to the slide deck. I just want to graze over to this picture right here. And this is more tuned in for more of a south-southwest to southwest sea breeze, but it does apply to even south-southeast or south, because what happens is we have cooler sea surface temperatures, which mean it's more of a stable environment over the water. right? Until we get up to about 76, 77 and into the 80s, then we get that convective coupling that you would see typically for even like tropical cyclones and whatnot. But that happens here where the waters are a little bit more stable coming in from the ocean. Now, once the air goes over land and tracks back down over the harbor, it becomes unstable. And especially when that warmer air dives down over those deeper shipping channels where the cooler water is, you get more of that instability and that mixing going on. So that's what happens inside the harbor. That's why I'm calling for a little bit higher. Now we talk about offshore for the race. The offshore courses are going to be a little tougher because, let me get back to where I was. So the offshore course basically is always going to be a little bit lighter than inside the harbor. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if you're going 3 and 4 miles out and beyond that this environment's going to be in the 3 to 7 knot range. We've seen this before with this direction of wind where it's just very light offshore. So I would be expecting that today. If we hold 5 to 9 knots, that's great. If we get 6 to 10, even better. And the thing is just be prepared for a lighter wind environment out there on those offshore courses. Going back to SailFlow, sea surface temperatures right around 72 degrees. That's coming from the French Quarter, 72.1 now. So we continue to go up a little bit more each day inside the harbor, shoots volley 5 knots, south-southeast. So I'd say right at the time of race start, these winds may start to back a little bit more southeast in time, but if they hold south-southeast, that may be a little bit better. You won't be going into a complete headwind as you go out through the jetties for the offshore courses. And inshore, especially if you're going to be tracking along the southernmost portion of courses 1, 2, and 3, be careful because you're going to cut yourself off of the wind the closer to land you get. We want to stay basically out where the winds lay down, coming over the land, and then probably about 400 or 500 yards out is where you're going to see that mixing occurring, especially over the deep channel, deep shipping channel. So be aware of that, that we're going to be seeing a lighter wind to start, and then as we get into the afternoon, it'll be picking up in time, especially if those winds, if we do get a stronger sea breeze and that high pressure eases off the coast. You can see where the high pressure is now banked in right along North Carolina. In time, this is going to jog out to the east and head out towards Bermuda, which makes our sea breezes more robust. But if this high does jog a little bit further to the east today, we could see more of a south wind, which that would be more inducive for a stronger sea breeze pattern. So let's take a look real quick. I'm going to go back to the tides. I don't see, maybe Libby, if Tommy hops on, let me know here, but we talk about max ebb. We have 3 rivers that dump into the harbor, and then these basically currents race down the shipping channels. So if we look at the Ashley River, this is a really important leg of the currents that cuts through, and it's really strong just near James Island Yacht Club, and across the backside of Morris Island. Looking at visible satellite, this is an example of max ebb. Now, if you're looking at the Jumbotron, this might be a little bit grainy, but you can see the water line right here where the salinity mix is a little bit different, the fresher brackish water coming through. This tells us how strong that current comes through right along the land. And then the current coming down from the Cooper also blending in. So if you're on max ebb and you're racing in this direction, you can really use that to your advantage. As far as going north, you can see this line. If you jog across that line, you may be having a cross current across the course. So just be aware of that. On max ebb, you want to kind of hang along just south of this line. If you can get in that zone, that's going to be favorable. We look at another picture. This is little less visible, but you can see the line, the crease in the water right about here. So again, you can definitely see it. It looks a little bit more muddy, and then the other water's darker, and you'll be seeing down the course. Mostly that race out there see that. Leandro, did you want to talk about anything on race tactics for the course itself? I can go back over to the race rings.
Sure, thank you, Shay. Good morning, everybody. This is a 1-minute coach corner. Clearly, we're looking forward to a great racing day, very tactical. My few pointers here is, it seems like race 1, race 2, and race 3, they're going to be different. So it's going to reward those teams that they're open-minded and they're very alert to changes in the breeze, in the tides, and in the current. I encourage you to get on your course early, do your homework, get your sidelines, maybe 2. if the marks are in place, maybe a rounding on the gate and practice few starts to make sure that you don't get caught in difficult situations based on pressure or current. So I wish you good luck today. I will see you on the water, and at the end of the day, we'll take a look at the videos from the drone and learn from it. Good luck.
Great, thank you, Leandro. Real quick, for those of you who aren't aware, we do have a new buoy offshore. It's a wave buoy, and it's also a sister parent to a new buoy, CHR 60. But this one, for the offshore courses, if you want to know a little bit more information out there, this is a good go-to. It's not quite in the race course, but it is a new buoy. But Corp has all of these readings, so you can get the Capers nearshore buoy. Right now, we're looking at waves out there. The offshore course are going to be about 2 to 2.5 feet in that zone, and the swell is going to be from the northeast. So tune accordingly to those directions, as you have a cross cut on the swell versus the wind. May get a little chop out there if the winds do get up near 10 knots, and just keep that in mind. Now, going forward in time, we see the high pressure slowly jogging east. This makes our sea breezes a little bit more robust tomorrow. We're looking at probably a little higher, 8 to 12 knots along the coastline, maybe 11 to 15 or 12 to 16 inside the harbor. We'll be addressing that tomorrow morning and taking a look. We still have that pesky front sitting to our north, so that may cap speeds somewhat. It won't allow too much flow to head into into the boundary layer. But as we go forward into Sunday, it looks like the high becomes a little bit more of a Bermuda high ahead of our next cold front. So stronger winds even yet, maybe even 14 to 18 or 15 to 19 inside the harbor. So get a little bit stronger each day, which is good. And it's very nice to have a solid sort of direction where you're going southeast and veering south throughout the entire event, because at least you know which directions to tune for. It's not going to be a big swing from the east northeast or something coming out of the west, or that makes it fairly much easier to do a forecast for. High air temperatures, we're going to be up near 80 degrees today and getting into the low 80s as we get to the weekend. Sunday, 84. Our chances for storms, showers and storms do increase on Sunday. We're going to be fairly dry today, fairly dry tomorrow, and then Sunday we get that chance creeping in, about 30 to 40% chance, and mostly in the afternoon. I would say if you're going to see the sea breeze line, you'll see the clouding that starts right along the coastline. This may start tomorrow. I don't think we're going to see it today, but you may see some clouds starting just off the coast, some fair weather clouds, and those are going to migrate inland. Once they pass over the harbor, that's when the sea breeze is going to start. So we could have early morning westerlies and northwesterly land breezes before the winds actually pick up. And that's going to be indicative for Sunday as well. If that cold front progresses a little further, we may start south early, but it may also be west or northwest from the land breezing. And that's going to do it for today. If there aren't any questions, Libby, I'll field those. I'll go ahead and stop sharing. Anything from the audience?
I do not see any questions in the chat. So we'll wrap it up for today. Thank you so much, Shay and Leandro. We will see both of you for the debrief. Sorry, just Leandro at 6 o'clock on the Jumbotron on the beach. And we also have dock talks for J70 and J88 shortly after racing on A dock tonight. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Good luck out there.
Thanks, everyone.